Imagine a hidden clock that seems to tick in the background of your life. This clock is not on your wall, and it is not on your phone. It is inside society itself. It tells you when you are supposed to finish school, get married, buy a house, have children, or retire. This invisible schedule is what many people call the social clock. But here's the problem. This clock does not belong to you. It is based on old traditions and expectations that may not fit your life, your culture, or even today's world. When you feel behind, or when you compare yourself to friends who seem further ahead, it is usually the pressure of this social clock. In this episode, we will explore how the social clock was created, why it feels so powerful, and most importantly, how you can free yourself from it. By the end, you will not only improve your English listening and vocabulary, you will also learn a new way to think about your time, your choices, and your future. Let's dive in. Where did the social clock come from? The idea of a social clock comes from history. In the past, life expectancy was shorter, communities were smaller, and roles were more traditional. People were expected to marry young, have children quickly, and stay in the same job for life. In many countries, the clock was strict, and breaking the rules meant shame or gossip. Over time, these rules became habits, and habits became expectations. Even today, the echoes of those old norms are still strong. Parents may ask, "When will you get married?" Or, "Why don't you have children yet?" Friends may compare jobs or homes as if life is a race. The truth is, this timeline was built for another world, not for the complex reality of today. Economies are different. People live longer, and opportunities appear at many stages of life. Yet the pressure of the social clock remains, making many people feel late or unsuccessful. Understanding this origin helps you see that the clock is not natural or permanent. It was created by society, and that means it can also be challenged and changed. Why do we feel behind compared to others? The feeling of being behind is one of the strongest effects of the social clock. Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing people your age buying houses, having weddings, or getting promotions. You may feel happy for them, but at the same time, a small voice whispers, "You should be there too." This comparison is not always logical. Each person has a different story, different resources, and different timing. Still, the clock inside society makes us measure ourselves against others, as if life is a competition. The truth is, being behind is only real if you believe the rules of the clock. In reality, you are simply on your own path. Some people bloom early, some bloom later, but blooming is blooming. There is no late when it comes to personal growth. Learning to recognize that pressure is the first step to freeing yourself from it. When you see comparison for what it is, you begin to understand that you are not late. You are simply living your own schedule. How is today's world different from the past? To understand why the social clock feels outdated, think about how the world has changed. Decades ago, people often stayed in one town, worked at one company, and followed a very similar timeline. But today, things are more flexible and more uncertain. Education lasts longer, housing is more expensive, and careers are less stable. Many young adults face student debt, high rent, and changing job markets. Life expectancy is also much longer, meaning that milestones can happen later without reducing life satisfaction. In fact, research shows that people who marry or start families later often bring more stability and maturity to their choices. The old clock does not fit the reality of modern life. Yet because traditions move slowly, society's expectations can lag behind. This creates a gap between what is realistic today and what the old social clock demands. Understanding this gap helps you stop blaming yourself. The problem is not you. The problem is trying to use an outdated schedule for a world that looks completely different. What happens when we follow the clock blindly? Following the social clock without question can feel safe at first. It gives you a sense of direction, a map to follow. But if the map does not match the territory, you may end up frustrated, stressed, or unfulfilled. Some people marry quickly just because it's time, only to discover they were not ready. Others rush into jobs they do not enjoy simply because they fear being behind. Over time, this can lead to regret, dissatisfaction, and even resentment. When your choices are guided more by pressure than passion, you may lose connection with your true self. Life then feels like a checklist, not a journey. This is why awareness matters so much. Once you see that the social clock is optional, you can step back and ask, what do I really want? That question opens doors to new paths. Remember, the goal is not to ignore responsibilities, but to make sure your milestones are meaningful, chosen at the right time for you, not just because the clock says so. Why do families and cultures push the clock? Family traditions and cultural values often keep the social clock alive. Parents may believe that early marriage or a stable job brings security and respect. Grandparents may see milestones as signs of honor or success in the community. These views are not always bad, but they can create pressure if they do not match your personal needs. Sometimes parents compare their children to others, saying things like, "Your cousin is already married," or "Your friend already has a good job." They may not mean harm, but the effect is heavy. Cultures also reward people who follow the clock, while making others feel invisible or strange if they choose a different path. It takes courage to balance respect for family with respect for yourself. You can value your culture while still understanding that you are not just living for others. You are living your own life. This balance is not easy, but it is essential for building a future that is both authentic and respectful. How does the clock affect mental health? The pressure of the social clock is not only about external milestones, it also affects your inner world. Constant comparison and fear of being late can create anxiety, sadness, or even depression. Many people feel stuck, as if their life is on pause while everyone else is moving forward. This emotional weight can reduce confidence and motivation. It can even make people doubt their worth. The truth is, mental health is deeply connected to how we see our progress. If progress is measured only by the clock, disappointment is almost guaranteed. But if progress is measured by growth, learning, and meaningful experiences, the picture changes. You begin to see value in every step, no matter the timing. This mindset shift can reduce stress and increase resilience. Recognizing the clock's impact on your emotions is important. It shows you that your struggles are not weakness, but a normal reaction to unrealistic social pressure. And that realization itself can be healing. What if you are late by society's standards? Being late according to the clock can feel uncomfortable. You may face questions like, "Why aren't you married yet?" Or, "When will you buy a house?" These questions can sting, especially if you are already worried. But let's think differently. Being late is not the same as being lost. In fact, being late often means you are taking the time to build a stronger foundation. Many people who reach milestones later do so with more wisdom, patience, and clarity. They know themselves better, and they often make choices that last longer. Remember, the social clock is not a natural law, it is a human invention. If you arrive later to a milestone, it does not reduce its value. A wedding at 40 can be just as joyful as a wedding at 20. A career change at 50 can bring just as much excitement as one at 30. Late is only late if you measure by the clock. If you measure by meaning, late can actually be right on time. How can we redefine success? Success does not have to mean checking off boxes on the social clock. Instead, success can mean living a life that feels fulfilling and true to your values. For some, that may include marriage and children. For others, it may include travel, creativity, or service to the community. The key is choice. Success becomes powerful when it is chosen, not forced. When you define success for yourself, you stop living as if life is a competition. You stop asking, "Am I ahead or behind?" and start asking, "Am I aligned with who I want to be?" This question changes everything. It turns the focus from comparison to authenticity. And when you live authentically, you also inspire others to do the same. Redefining success is not about rejecting tradition completely. It is about expanding it, making room for diverse paths. In this way, success becomes more personal, more flexible, and much more meaningful than the rigid rules of the social clock. What does freedom from the clock look like? Freedom from the social clock does not mean ignoring every milestone or responsibility. It means you are no longer trapped by pressure or fear. You still make plans, but those plans are chosen with intention, not panic. You may decide to study longer before working. You may decide to wait before marriage. Or you may decide to follow tradition, but with confidence that it is truly your decision. Freedom looks like peace when others question you. It looks like joy in your progress, even if it is different from your friends. It looks like trust in your own timing. When you are free from the clock, life becomes less about rushing and more about exploring. Each stage feels like an opportunity, not a deadline, and that shift can bring a deep sense of calm. Imagine living with the belief that your timeline is valid, simply because it is yours. That is what freedom from the clock really looks like. Why is comparison so powerful? Comparison feels natural because humans are social creatures. From childhood, we learn by watching others. We notice who is faster, who is taller, who is first. As adults, this habit continues, but the stakes feel higher. Social media makes it even stronger. Every scroll shows highlights of people buying homes, starting families, or achieving career success. It looks like everyone is moving on schedule, while you may feel left out. But remember, you are comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You see their milestone, but not their struggles, their debt, or their doubts. Comparison gives the clock its fuel, but once you realize how selective and incomplete it is, you begin to take back control. You start to see that life is not a race. It is more like a book, and every book has its own chapters. Some chapters are fast, others are slow, but all of them make the story complete. That story is yours, and it cannot be compared page by page with anyone else's. How can you embrace your own pace? Embracing your pace means learning to trust your unique timeline. It starts with self-awareness. Ask yourself, what feels right for me now? Not in 5 years, not according to others, but right now. Maybe your focus is learning a skill, Traveling or simply gaining stability, that choice is valid. Once you accept this, pressure begins to lose its power. Another step is practicing patience. Growth often takes longer than you expect. A tree does not rush to bear fruit. It grows steadily, season by season. You are the same. Patience allows you to enjoy the journey instead of constantly fearing delay. Finally, embracing your pace means celebrating small wins. Every step forward matters, whether it matches the clock or not. Did you finish a course, save money, or create something meaningful? Celebrate it. These small wins remind you that life is not measured only by big milestones. With patience and self-awareness, you build confidence that your pace is not slow. It is simply your own rhythm. What if your goals are different from others? Sometimes the social clock feels heavy because your dreams are not the same as society's expectations. Maybe you do not want children. Maybe you want to live in a small apartment instead of a big house. Maybe your dream is to write, travel, or build something new. These choices may confuse others, but they do not make you wrong. What matters is alignment between your goals and your values. Living someone else's life will only create emptiness. Living your life, even if it is unusual, brings energy and joy. Remember, diversity of goals makes the world richer. If everyone followed the same timeline, life would be boring and repetitive. Your difference is not a weakness, it is your strength. Of course, you may face questions or even criticism, but holding firm to your vision builds resilience. Over time, those who doubted may even admire your courage. Having different goals is not about rejecting tradition, it is about respecting yourself enough to live authentically. That is where true satisfaction begins. How do finances connect to the social clock? Money is one of the biggest reasons people feel behind. The clock says you should own a house by 30 or have savings by 40. But reality does not always allow it. Student loans, high housing prices, and unstable jobs make it harder for many people today. The result is stress and comparison. But here's the truth. Financial milestones are not just about effort, they are also about conditions. If the system makes housing expensive, it is not your personal failure. Understanding this removes guilt. Instead of chasing a schedule, focus on building stability at your own pace. Create habits of saving, even if small. Learn skills that improve your opportunities. Step by step, you will grow. Money should be seen as a tool, not a scoreboard. Owning a house at 40 does not make you less successful than someone who did it at 25. What matters is financial peace, not ticking boxes. The clock's rules about money are outdated, and freeing yourself from them allows you to focus on progress instead of panic. How does the clock shape identity? Identity is how you see yourself, and the social clock can deeply influence it. If society says you are supposed to be a parent by a certain age and you are not, you may feel incomplete. If society says you should already have a stable career and you are still exploring, you may feel lost. These feelings show how strong the clock's grip can be. But identity is not just about milestones. It is about character, values, and passions. Who you are becoming matters more than what you have achieved by a certain age. For example, kindness, curiosity, and resilience are not tied to time. They grow through experience, not deadlines. Shifting your focus from external identity to inner identity gives you strength. You begin to see yourself as valuable, not because of what you have checked off, but because of who you are and who you are becoming. This reframe takes power away from the clock and gives it back to you. What role does patience play in life? Patience is the antidote to the pressure of the social clock. In a world that moves fast, waiting feels uncomfortable. But patience allows you to grow roots before reaching branches. It gives you time to learn, to heal, to prepare. Without patience, people rush into decisions they later regret. With patience, they wait for the right moment, the right partner, or the right opportunity. Think of cooking. Food tastes better when it simmers slowly, not when it is rushed. Life works the same way. Patience does not mean doing nothing. It means active preparation while trusting that timing will unfold. The clock tells you to hurry. Patience tells you to breathe. Patience gives you peace because you stop fighting against imaginary deadlines. And when the right moment comes, you will be ready to enjoy it fully. Developing patience is one of the most powerful skills for living beyond the pressure of the social clock. How can relationships be affected by the clock? Relationships often carry the weight of the social clock. People may feel pushed to date quickly, marry early, or stay in unhealthy partnerships just to meet expectations. This pressure can lead to choices based on fear instead of love. True relationships, however, are not measured by when they happen, but by how healthy and supportive they are. Some couples meet young and grow together beautifully. Others meet later in life and find deep happiness. There is no single right timeline. The social clock may tell you that love has an expiration date, but reality shows that love can begin at any stage. Friendships, too, are shaped by the clock. Sometimes people drift apart because one marries earlier or starts a family sooner. Understanding this helps you respond with compassion, not jealousy. Relationships thrive when they are based on readiness, respect, and care, not on deadlines. Choosing connections at your own pace creates stronger, longer-lasting bonds than following the pressure of the clock. What is the decade of possibility? If the social clock says you are late, reframe it. Think of your current stage not as lost time, but as a decade of possibility. In this decade, you can explore, learn, and experiment without rushing into permanent decisions. You can try new jobs, study new fields, travel, or build skills. Each experience adds to your wisdom. Instead of being behind, you are investing in yourself. Calling it a decade of possibility changes your mindset from fear to excitement. It tells you that this time is not wasted, it is preparation. Later, when you reach milestones, you will do so with more strength and clarity. Life is not only about the destination, but also about the richness of the journey. By embracing this decade of possibility, you take control of your narrative. You stop apologizing for where you are, and you start celebrating it as a powerful season of growth and discovery. How do we create our own timeline? Creating your own timeline begins with clarity. Ask, what do I truly value? What kind of life feels meaningful for me? Once you know this, design milestones that reflect those values. Your timeline may include education, travel, relationships, or creativity, but at times that feel right for you. Next, practice flexibility. Life often surprises us, and strict deadlines can lead to frustration. A personal timeline is not about fixed dates, but about direction. For example, you may aim to start a new career within a few years, but if it takes longer, you adapt without self-blame. Finally, protect your timeline from external pressure. When others question your choices, respond with calm confidence. I am following my own path. Over time, people will respect your courage. Creating your own timeline does not mean ignoring society. It means living with awareness and purpose. This shift turns life into a journey of choice, not a race against an invisible clock. What is the final lesson of the social clock? The final lesson is simple but powerful. Life is not a schedule. It is a story. The social clock may whisper that you are late, but the truth is you are exactly where you need to be, to learn, to grow, and to move forward. Your milestones will come at the right time because they will be chosen with intention, not pressure. By questioning the clock, you gain freedom. By embracing your own pace, you gain peace. And by living authentically, you gain fulfillment. Remember, the purpose of this episode was not only to improve your English, but also to give you new tools for life. You now have words and ideas to describe the invisible pressures around you, and also the confidence to resist them. So as you move forward, carry this truth. Your time is your own. The clock does not define you. Your choices, your growth, and your journey, these are what make your life meaningful. And that, more than anything else, is right on time.